Welcome into the Wagyu Filet podcast here on Five Clubs. Johnson Wagner, Brendon de Jonge. We're going to get into a number of different topics, but Brendon, the Amex Championship just took place. Pace of play was atrocious on Sunday. TGL League has put a shot clock in play. What's going on with pace of play on the PGA Tour? What do we need to see? What are your thoughts?
Pace of play sucks, for one. It's brutal. It's hard to watch. I know you were the analyst, the lead analyst, and watching it. It took them 40 minutes to play the 11th hole. 40 minutes for one hole of golf. We're trying to increase viewership. We're trying to get guys interested in the game. We're trying to get the casual viewers to come and watch the game. That's not the way that it's going to happen. What we need to do, the officials are going to have to man up, and they're going to have to get a little stricter. They're going to have to start dishing out penalties. It's the only way you're going to get these guys to start playing quicker.
It seemed like the Amex was a bit of a perfect storm, a mixture of the golf course, but like you were telling me earlier, only 71 guys made the cut. It's not like there was 80 players playing. So with 71 guys making that cut and split tees, I mean that's less than a normal wave on a regular tour event. It took 5 hours and 37 minutes for that final group to finish. And one thing I laud PGA Tour rules officials on is the fact that they are so good at hitting that TV window. Mm-hmm. They missed it by 35, maybe 40 minutes. They missed the finish time. I'm not a fan of necessarily seeing a shot clock on a PGA Tour event.
No.
But I wouldn't mind maybe for an alternate event, Puerto Rico or Dominican, the wind blows, that may be difficult. But the European Tour did it. Like, let's try it out.
That's the thing. You're right. The European Tour gave it a go. It didn't really last very long. I think it looks a little hokey. It looks weird if you're going to have a big shot clock on a golf cart that's going to follow every group. But maybe this is what it's going to take. I hope it doesn't come to that. I would much prefer it to the rules official. Have a player meeting and be like, listen, guys, I'm sorry. We've talked about this for long enough. We need to enforce things. Don't be surprised if we start dishing out penalties. Then the players have been warned. The guys have been told, you guys are going to start playing quicker or you're going to get penalized. You said it, Dave. Just under 5 hours, 40 minutes. In dome-like conditions with a winning score of minus 25. So it's not hard golf courses that they're playing. There's no breeze to worry about, and they played in 5 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing about the stadium is if you have one train wreck, and you know how many penalty areas and stuff are out there, if you have one train wreck on either side, then it can be something where it can slow down the whole thing and back it up. Because I didn't noticeably, Patrick Cantlay was in the second to last group. He's a slow player, but he wasn't playing slow. They were waiting on every shot. So it's hard to point the blame. And one thing I will say that it becomes an issue in major championships and on firm, fast golf courses, the course setup. I mean, you know how when you're putting on greens that are running at 12, guys are going to mark 2-footers. And it's the fact that I don't feel like we see anybody finishing out like we used to.
Yeah, we don't. And then I tell you, this aim point that's crept in now, good God, it slows things down. You've outlawed green books. Outlaw this aim point. I don't know how you'd go about that. It would be a tough one, but go ahead and outlaw the same point because it has certainly slowed everything way down.
I think that's a great point, and television's gotten so much better about not showing the guys on aim point, but watching, because we've got that separate feed with like a quad box, watching caddies, watching players, and then the player gets back, and then the caddy gets back in. I am completely with you on aim point. I think green reading is a skill, and I think aim points helped bad green readers, but you shouldn't be able to straddle your line with your feet. And I think that's maybe how you could take aim point out is at least just say, hey, all right, you can feel it behind the hole, you can feel it behind your ball, but you are not allowed to straddle your line, stand on either side and feel the slopes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there will have to be some tweaks and certainly make some changes, but I think that this aim point has certainly slowed everything down. And from, as you say, from a visual, TV is doing a much better point now, making a much better point of doing away with that, not showing the guys do it, but every now and then you still see it creeping in. I don't want to single guys out, but you'll see a Max Homa do it, that he'll do it all the way to the hole, then he'll turn around and do it all the way back. And it's a terrible look.
And it is a terrible look. And as I just said, you can't straddle the line. They'll just then go to one side of it, and then they'll go around and go to the other side and could potentially make it even worse. Where would you draw the line on banning aim point though?
That's the big question, right? Like how do you go about enforcing it? Like do you stop guys getting behind it and using their finger? You can't do all that. So it's going to be very, very difficult. But you know what? They've made changes in the rules before. They can do it. They can come up with something.
Transition a little bit with that shot clock pace of play. We're now a few weeks into TGL. Let's first go with some pros for TGL. What are some of the pros for you for TGL?
I think it's entertaining. It's simulator golf. It's different. I think it is overall pretty entertaining. I think you're going to attract an audience for sure. I still don't think you're not going to flip your traditionalists. I don't think your traditionalists are going to get into the TGL. They might, if they're flipping through channels, they may stop and watch it for a couple minutes, but I don't think they're going to sit there and get fully vested in it. But a pro for me is it is entertaining. It's something different, and I tell you what, the whole graphics of the way they're able to move the topography of the green, I think is absolutely spectacular.
And it's interesting, like the hole designs, I thought they were going to be cheesy, but when they put them on the screen and do a flyover, I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. You can design any hole you want. You can have cliffs where it's impossible to get there, but since you're playing on a simulator, you can get there. I found it, my son and I've watched a couple. He's 15, a good golfer, and he thoroughly has enjoyed at least the start of it. The first 30 or 40 minutes he's enjoyed.
Would you like to see them playing actual golf courses? Do you think that would add to the product if they were playing an actual golf course on the simulator?
I think they had to have these design consultants come in and design these holes based on what that green can do.
Okay.
So I think there's limitations on, all right, you're allowed to have 2 bunkers around the green. Here's what the slopes can max out at, and here's the size that your green can be.
So you could still play the hole as is, but you would lose something in around the green. So then it loses its full effect, right?
I think so. And I actually quite like the shot clock. And the fact that you have 2 timeouts or something during a session that you can, I think it was Tiger's team actually called a timeout to ice Justin Rose, which I thought was pretty cool. But then also, if you've got a putt you're reading with your team, you can call a timeout and give yourself an additional 40 seconds. I mean, that would be something where if the PGA Tour was ever to go with a shot clock and play, you would have to have a timeout, because if a wind gust comes up and it changes completely and you're down to the edge of your time, you can't get penalized for conditions dictating. But I do like the shot clock.
I like the sort of the pulsing of the shot clock as it's getting closer as well.
Like the heart rate.
Right, the heart rate starts picking up. I don't think you'd see that on the PGA Tour. But yeah, I mean, it's things to think about.
Something that bothers me about it, and I'm viewership's down in golf, right?
Yeah.
And we've obviously had the split with LIV and the PGA Tour, and that's the main thing. But the West Coast swing is probably my favorite time of year to watch golf, and I don't feel like the problem with golf right now is that there's not enough golf. Yeah. And I feel like taking these guys away when you're on the West Coast, you're starting this TGL, you're flying Xander Schauffele and all these guys back from Hawaii, and then Xander ends up pulling out of the Amex, and it's like, does this have an effect? Like, I just don't want TGL to take away from arguably one of the best times of year on the PGA Tour.
No, yeah, I think you make a great point there. The West Coast was one of my favorite times of year to play as well. And yeah, you don't want these guys to start missing events because of that stuff. Because yes, I mean, the stars still do drive the product. The casual golf fan wants to see the stars playing against each other as much as they possibly can. And if we start losing that because of a simulated golf league, we don't want that.
Right. I mean, and I just don't know if it's going to. I mean, Tiger obviously was rated well. Rory and Tiger, when they play, is going to be great. I just don't know if it's got staying power beyond. Like, I probably will stop watching it. And I'm a traditionalist golf fan. I probably will be done after the 4th or 5th week.
Yeah, I think the verdict is still out for me as well. You know, the big thing was the banter. Was there going to be a lot of banter back and forth between the guys? Was it going to be forced, or was it going to be authentic banter? You know, we had all these Capital One the matches and stuff, and the back and forth was all very, very forced. From what I saw, I didn't watch a lot of it, but I saw a little bit of that second one. It looked like there was a little bit of banter. I did walk past the screen at one point and saw Tiger crying with laughter, which I thought was fantastic. You know, I didn't realize that it was laughing at Kiz's bladed bunker shot. But that's great to see him enjoying himself. And I've talked about this some, like the banter, it doesn't have to be everybody. You need one guy that's really good and everybody that can play off that. It doesn't need to be everybody that's really quick or really witty.
And it's hard when you have 6 guys mic'd up, getting them all kind of aligned. And it's the desire, the match and TGL to be live for gambling kind of hurts the product. I mean, one of my favorite events, silly season, messed up events, was the Skins game.
Sure.
It's always the weekend of Thanksgiving. It was taped and edited and was done in 9-hole segments, and I miss the Skins game, but it's like this gambling world platform necessitates everything being live, and I think especially golf loses a lot when you're only really looking at one group. It's why match play is a poor TV product. When you're only looking at one group, doing it live is tough.
But that also gets back to that banter a little bit as well. Lee Trevino carried that Skins game for a long time, and he was the centerpiece of all the banter and all the back and forth, and people played off him, and I thought it created for a fantastic product.
Who would be the guy in today's sort of modern professional golf landscape that you could think could carry that sort of setup?
I think Xander could. I really do. I think Xander's pretty quick. I think Xander's funny. Whether he'd be willing to do it, I think Xander would be probably the guy that kind of jumps to mind. Kiz can do it. Kiz could certainly do it.
He can't play golf
but he's not good enough to back it up. That's the problem. You need somebody that's good that can give it as well.
Homa could do it.
Yeah, Homa's got that as well. It's whether these guys are willing to give that much of themselves to it.
Yeah, Xander, I'm completely with you on Xander. I had a nice chat with him down the first fairway at the U.S. Open, and then we did a walk and talk. And as soon as the camera came on 2, he just shut down.
Yeah.
But I think winning 2 majors now, I think we're going to see his personality truly come out. I mean, remember him at the Ryder Cup in 21 smoking the stogie?
Yeah.
And I think he's now going to be unafraid to go ahead and bring that personality out.
Which would be great to see. We don't want these guys to put the wall up. We don't want them to be guarded. We want them to be out there and be a little bit vulnerable. And I think that's going to bring in more eyes, more viewers.
Kind of speaking of that, covering the game of golf from a different perspective now. I mean, when we played from 2003 to 2020-ish, what have you learned now watching the game from this perspective? What would you like to see the guys do more of or less of, or how you would go back and look at the way you handle things?
I wish I'd been very, very different on the golf course. I hate saying that, but I didn't give a whole lot. I kept it all pretty close to my chest. I wish I'd smiled more. I wish I'd acknowledged the crowd some more. I wish I'd been a little bit more emotional when I'd done something good. That would be what I would tell these guys. Give a little bit more. You're an entertainer. Ultimately, you're an entertainer. You're putting on a show for a crowd. Play to the crowd a little bit. I think Bryson has embraced that. Maybe he's taken it to the next level, but Bryson has certainly embraced that, and he's won a lot of people over by doing it.
It's such a good point. And at the Amex, I was sitting in the booth with Steve Sands, and Rex Hargett was doing some walk and talks Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Steve kind of whispers over. He said, "When you were playing, would you have done that?" And I don't think I would have.
Yeah.
I remember the whole topic coming up, and I'm like, nobody wants to talk while they're competing. But then you look at the professional landscape now with NFL coaches, college coaches, the players even, they're doing sideline chats right before the game starts or even in game, halftime. And I think it's important for these guys to do that, to talk, to show their personality. I mean, imagine having the leader of a golf tournament walking from the driving range to the first tee and getting to have an interview with that person like, hey, you would have to be the right person not to ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
But that insight, like, oh man, I had a bad warm up, but you know what? A lot of times when I warm up poorly on the range, that means I'm a little more focused going to the first tee. So he's like, I don't mind it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, but yes, I certainly would have done some things differently. You should have spent more time in the gym before you played as well.
I was just about to say, watching these guys prepare these days,
man.
Every aspect, starting with nutrition. To the gym. I mean, I would say half of the work they do is off the golf course now, and the other half is on the golf course.
The professionalism has gone to the next level. There's no stone left unturned. I know that we certainly didn't treat it like that. We didn't think anything of going out and having a few beers before a round of golf. Never took it to the
before a round of golf.
The night before. The night before a round of golf.
I was going to say I didn't drink before a round of golf.
The night before a round of golf.
Gotcha.
These guys now are watching what they put in their body the night before. They're not going to eat a big meal because they don't want to feel heavy in the morning. And it's become very, very professional.
You don't think they're sitting around the room pounding some Coors Lights, eating some buffalo wings and pizza?
I mean, I think they should be at times. They'd have more fun, but they're not.
I remember I would order a pizza late before an early tea time, and I'd wake up the next morning just gutted, I can't move, not turning well. You're right, and it's like the advent of that Whoop strap that really kind of
sent you on a guilt trip.
Well, it does. I mean, I quit wearing it after about 6 months because I didn't need my phone telling me how bad I felt every day. But these guys, after a while, you would think you'd take it off, but they still wear it. They want to know how they're feeling. They want to know how to maximize their body and their potential for good golf.
No, I think when we played, it was sort of maybe a 6-hour day was our day as far as golf went. Now these guys, it's all day. It's the morning, the prior. If these guys are on afternoon tee time, they're going to be in the gym in the morning. And then after the round, they're going to go hit some balls, and there's going to be a recovery after the fact. They're going to go sit there in leg sleeves or something and recover. And I mean, it has become so professional. But that's the world of sport. Everything has become so professional.
And all the top guys, they're traveling with their own trainers that do massage therapy. They've got chiropractors. They've got everything at their disposal.
Would you not have been sick of that? Like everywhere you turn, you've got somebody on your team, somebody where you've got to do this, somebody you got to do this, somebody you got to do this. Like, I understand that these guys they're striving to be the best in the world, but that would have driven me mad.
Yeah, it's weird. That's such another great point. It's almost like some of them want that so they have a place to lay blame if something goes wrong and be like, well, my trainer didn't do this for me and my chef didn't do this. But it's with the purses that they're playing for, with the amount of money on the PGA Tour, they can afford to have this sort of team around them and afford to pay them well.
To that point, I got a question for you. Do you think now we're going to start seeing a lot shorter careers because of burnout? Guys are going to be like, you know what, this is just too much. I can't handle it anymore.
Well, I mean, Jason Day came back pretty well from back surgery, or not back surgery, but back issues, had to change his swing. I mean, I look at a guy like Will Zalatoris, and I'm worried. I mean, he's had a serious back surgery, maybe even two.
Right.
What is he, 29?
Yeah.
And yes, I think we're going to see much shorter careers, but I think the earning window is so great that maybe you only have to play 10, 12 years. You've made enough money to set yourself up for life. And I think it's going to be going forward. The trickle-down effect is that the Champions Tour is really going to struggle if these young stars have made so much money that they have shorter careers. They don't play after 35, so it would take a lot for them to be relevant and playing decent golf at 50.
That's an excellent point. You know, you're right. The Champions Tour, if that's the case, that Champions Tour number's going to have to come down to 45 or something. They're going to have to make some changes if you're having your stars from the PGA Tour that won't go up there and play.
Yeah, because I don't think it can live on Stephen Alker's and Charlie Hoffman's.
No, I don't think so, unfortunately, as good a guys as they are.
I think Charlie Hoffman's going to do quite well on the Champions Tour.
Yes, I think Charlie Hoffman is licking his lips.
All right, rules changes. I watch these guys being on the range and seeing the way they hit the driver. It's like there's no fear, full on rip. I was initially against this golf ball rollback. I can't wait. I wish they'd push the date up. I want to see more curvature on the golf ball. I want to see more balls hit out of the rough. I'm not saying golf is too easy, but at the highest level, the way they drive it is ridiculous. How far and how accurate is just, you just don't see many foul balls.
Well, we've played 3 tournaments this year. We've had a 35 under and a 25 under win. So I think the evidence is right there. I'm with you. I'm all for this rollback. I want to see them bring the size of the driver face down. You talked about the skill of green reading. There was a skill in being able to hit the driver out the middle of the club. That's gone away now. You can hit it anywhere on that face, and you're still going to get a decent result. That they need to do something about bringing the size of that driver head down.
Yeah, and you would think if you had just changed the driver head that it would lead to having to remake the golf ball. Mm-hmm. I wonder if remaking the golf ball will have that effect on the driver. I don't think it will.
I don't think it will. I think they went about this the wrong way. You're right. If you had brought that driver head down there, now all of a sudden you're playing a golf ball that doesn't spin. You can't keep it in the air because you can't hit it as hard because your face is so small, so you're actually swinging controlled. Then all of a sudden everybody's not flying at 330 yards. So I wish that this is something that they'd addressed first, was the head of the size of the head, excuse me.
And I mean, you mentioned the first few events of the PGA Tour. Sony Open in Hawaii, Waialae Country Club actually had a relatively decent winning score. It's par 70, so it was fairly low for a par 70, but it's one of the shortest golf courses on tour. Another thing is that there's actual rough on that golf course. There were elements with some crosswinds. PGA West, I understand it doesn't blow. The weather was perfect. But I think the PGA Tour, I guess birdies sell. And I think there's this pullback of wanting single digits to win a golf tournament, which personally, that's what I enjoy watching.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like a grumpy old washed-up tour pro, remember when we first got out there, the rough that we played in some of those places?
Back in my day.
Back in my day. I mean, it was penal. It was. I mean, I remember playing Quail Hollow for the first time. It was absolutely chip-out rough, and I don't think there's any problem with that. Again, that brings the skill in driving the ball in the fairway.
I would think most major championship rough now is less than we had on a PGA Tour week, like a Torrey Pines, like a Bay Hill, Memorial. It's hard to miss those fairways at Jack's Place, but there was rough there.
And you said it there. There was a little bit of rough at Waialae. That score was what, I think 14, 15 under, somewhere in there.
So it was a playoff at 16.
Playoff at 16. There's always rough at API, at Bay Hill there. That score is always 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 under par. It's always very, very close to that even par number. All it is a little bit of rough. We just don't see enough of it.
No, we don't. Anything else you want to get into?
No, I think we've covered a lot of it. I do want to get into how well you've done, how seamlessly this transition has been for you. Like what now that you're on the other side of it, what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself and about this game?
I mean, my passion for the game,
Yeah.
I feel like has come across on television. I don't think I'm very good at doing TV, but I get very animated when I get to talk about golf. And I like to say I caddied growing up. I then played the PGA Tour, and now I get to talk about golf. I've never truly had a job. I love what I'm doing, and it's getting to be around a team of people, producers, research, all cameramen, everything, camera operators, everybody behind the scenes. It's just been such a blast, and I'm very happy I've had this opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. You're right. The team aspect to me is number one. You know, when I stopped playing, I thought I hated golf. I didn't. I hated golf as a job. I had lost interest in golf as a job. I still love the game of golf, and now getting to do it with people and with a team, it really is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a blast. Well, this has been the Wagyu Filet podcast on 5 Clubs. Hope you enjoyed. Come join us next time.